Welcome to the July 27th, 6:30 p.m. City Council meeting. We do have a quorum, so I will call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? And the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, would you please read the rules to read? Read the rules to read. Would you read the rules to speak?
Yes, sir. Individuals wishing to speak on public and non-public hearing agenda items must complete a sign-up card and present it to the clerk prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearings must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Sign-up and oath cards are available on the table in the council chamber. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions from the public present. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Citizens shall not comment on any issue more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions and requests must address a pending issue, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items. Citizens wishing to speak on the consent agenda must submit a comment card identifying the items of interest. Speakers will be given 3 minutes per item. However, citizens wishing to speak on more than 3 consent agenda items shall be limited to speaking for a total of 10 minutes, regardless of the number of items.
Thank you, Clerk. Do I have minutes to approve?
No, sir.
Okay, I didn't see any. That's why I asked. No minutes to approve at this time. City Manager, special recognitions and presentations.
We have none tonight, sir. And before we get into the agenda, staff requests that we table item 10D to 10 August.
Move for approval.
I have a motion, and I have a second. Roll call vote on that, please.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Yes. Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes. Motion to be tabled passes unanimously. City Manager.
Mayor, if I could just announce for the public that item 10D was ordinance number 20-2021, the tree protection ordinance. That's what we're taking.
For my benefit, could you repeat that again? I don't want to say okay and I didn't hear it.
Item 10D that was just tabled, I was just clarifying for anyone in attendance, that was ordinance number 20-2021, the tree protection ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much. City Manager.
On to boards and commission. We're on 6A, which is the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. The terms of regular members, Margaret Van Deven, Richard Wheelis, and Sid Shahab, expire on July 31st, 2021. Regular members Van Deven and Wheelis have expressed their willingness and desire to continue to serve on this board for a 2-year period that expires on July 31st, 2023. Regular member Shahab does not wish to seek reappointment at this time. Member David Mender-Mack, who currently serves as an alternate member with a term to expire on July 31st, 2022, does not wish to be considered for a regular member at this time, and there are no other applications on file for your consideration.
Okay, no other comment from staff. Council, any comments or direction? Member Robinson?
No.
Do we have any cards?
Yes, sir. Stan Johnson?
Same thing. Richard Willis is a good guy. Been very, working for the city for a long time and other things. So keep him on there. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Stan.
Go ahead.
Were you asking me to approach?
Yeah, please.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the city. It's been very rewarding. We appreciate council's backing as we make our decisions, and hope to keep on doing this for quite a while.
And just for the record, could you give your name and address that you...
I'm Richard Wheelis, 3700 Audrey Drive, Titusville.
Thank you. And I'm a little distracted. I'm having technical difficulty up here, and I'm trying to roll, which isn't easy. Council, any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you. I think I'm back up. Here we go. Okay. Any other cards? All right. Council. Member Jordan.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the appointment of regular member Margaret Van Devin for public at large, in which Richard Wheeler's for a term that will expire on July 31st, 2023.
I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second by the Vice Mayor. Roll call vote.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Yes. Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your service. We certainly can't do it without you. City Manager.
And Mayor and Council, Mr. Shahab has been a long-serving member on that board, so we certainly will send him a thank you note.
Yes, please. Thank you. That should have been said from here. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Item 6B is the Titusville Historic Preservation Board. Approve member Jean Kamala Collins' 4-month leave of absence from July 2021 through October 2021.
Any cards? Council?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the Historic Preservation Board member Jean Kamala Collins' 4-month leave of absence from July 2021 through October 2021.
Member Jordan has given me a motion,
Second.
and Vice Mayor Nelson has given me a second. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Yes. Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yep.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Are we to petitions and requests? All right. Petitions and requests from the public, please.
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. This is the same handout I have last council meeting just a few minutes ago. Is that this photo and the back side has to do with Save Our River, and I'm announcing again is that we're having a public forum tomorrow, 5 o'clock, at the at one of the small pavilions that's along Max Brewer Causeway, Sandpoint Park. It's going to be a public forum for Save Our River and prayer. And that's what this handout is for. I noticed the one that I gave to Mr. Stauffer. It looks like he's pushed it on the floor, which is not a surprise to me at all. And those who, Mr. Stauffer is very much responsible for this spraying the sewage. You've seen that. Spraying the people with sewage and the cars with sewage for 4 months. Wow. And our city manager is also responsible there too. And also responsible for this picture here that shows sewage. On December the 22nd, I put out a poster, and so it's sewage went right directly to the Spaceview Park and directly into the river. And as I told you just a few minutes ago, is that the river directly connects to the pond at Spaceview Park. So, in other words, when the city pumped sewage to get it out of the pond, they were pulling it out of the river. Dumping, in other words, we pulled brackish water and we treated it, which doesn't make a lot of sense either. But that's a lot of things that's happening in our city, things that just don't make any sense at all. And someday we're going to pay the price. I think we've already done that. But I think it'd be nice to look at these other problems that we'll go over, is that not only dumping sewage into the river, but me getting a trespass warning for going into the Garden Street office and asking them people to look at the sewage on my car, which is this photo right here. So when you get sewage on your car, don't take it to Water Resources because they'll call the police on you. That's what happened to me. And I'm not the only one that was chased by Water Resources. Stella Bailey was also. In other words, she told me that when she was out there trying to look at things that's going on for the saving the river, by golly, people from Water Resources would yell at her from cars and come up to her and say, "Get out of here." So I don't think this is right. I think you've got the city of Titusville's got the wrong mode. as far as trying to save our river and be truthful about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stan. Anybody else for petitions and requests? I see none. City Manager to...
We're on to consent agenda item. Clerk, are there any cards for consent?
We have one individual that has signed up for 7 items.
And council, are there any questions that you have of staff or any items that you would like to pull?
I see none.
Mayor and council, with your permission, I'd like to read the titles for the record.
Thank you.
Consent agenda item 8A, approve the planning and building services continuing consultant contract. Consent agenda item 8B, approve work order number 2 to Terracon Environmental Consultants for Brownfield Environmental Consulting Services. Consent agenda item 8C, approve the award of Area 3 Welfield Renewal Program. Consent agenda item 8D, approve the annual resurfacing change order 2 to Massey Construction. Consent agenda item 8E, approve the highway maintenance agreement resolution 23-2021. Consent agenda item 8F, approve the purchase of 3 speed check signs. Consent agenda item 8G, authorize the engagement letter to retain Rondabons Collins, Esquire, of Bryant Miller Olive, PA law firm as general bond counsel to the City of Titusville. Consent agenda item 8H, approve resolution number 24-2021, approving the temporary road closure of state roads for special events, Astronaut High School Homecoming Parade.
Thank you very much. Staff, no addition. Council, any comment? Go ahead, Member Jordan.
Yeah, just a clarity. City Manager, you said 3 speed check signs instead of 4.
I'm sorry,
So
sir?
is it 4 signs or is 3?
4, sir.
Okay, you said 3. That's what I got confused.
I'm on my mistake.
Thank you.
Call the cards, please.
We have 1 card. It's Dan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, I'm speaking on a few items. So let me go over them real quickly. On the consent agenda item, 8A is on opposed, 8B opposed, 8C opposed, 8D approved, 8A approved. Got that?
B and C
Okay.
opposed.
Okay. 8F approve, 8G approve. I can say on, for example, 8A, speed check signs. And it says, well, my goodness, you know what we're going to do is we're going to take out those traffic humps in collector roads. Is that a surprise? By God, you know what? We've illegally left them there for many years. I expect for at least 20 years. And they're illegal. They're in our code. It says you do not put speed hump checks in collector roads. But by golly, we've put them there. So thank goodness now we're going to take them out. I've known this for a long time. So thank you for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Let's go to, where should we go? Let's go to the Welfield. I don't like to do that. But the Welfield Renewal Program, because I'd like to speak a lot about it, but there's not much time. This is scary, what's happening here, is that I have numerous times, I call up Water Resources and they don't respond. I go to the office, they don't respond, until finally they just put a trespass warning against me. They don't want to talk about the Welfield. It's been that way for years and years and years. They don't want to talk about the well fields. So if you look at what in your agenda packet, we're having an annual permitted allocated water. Area 2, 3 million gallons a day. Area 3, 0.6. That's about 500,000 gallons. Area 4, 2.75 million gallons. That comes for a total of 6.01 million gallons a day that were allowed. But I want you to understand is that back in even the 1980s, we were at times pumping over 7 million gallons a day. I expect we're going to be pumping over 8 million gallons a day sometimes. Now, I have noted and I've gone to the council numerous times saying, here is proof. I gave proof that what city has done before is they've overpumped their wells. I'm talking about overpumping, pumping them too much, pumping them too long, or whatever that is. You destroy wells. Now, what we have in the case of the around Indian River City, around the church, IRC, and so forth, south of State Road 50, we have a well field that is horribly, in fact, as we've rested it for years. And now we're looking at taking what? About 500,000 gallons a day? Now, here's the problem I see. Listen carefully. We started putting about $10 million into that project. Then we put another about $5 million, then another $5 million, and now we're going to. I'll tell you what this represents. What I'm saying is, Area 3 is probably the most expensive water in the United States. I'm sure it's cost more than potable water. When you get bottled water. Fact is that what I've done some calculations is that I'm paying almost as much when I just used a few gallons of water. I'm paying almost as much as if I were just buying bottled water. That's right now. So what I'm saying is that you need to look at what's going on in Area 3 Welfield. You're not listening to it. You're not listening to the money. Chink, 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 chink. Money's going down, and we're just spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on this thing, and it's not working. We've been resting the well fields. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to spend more money, and we're going to put more wells in. And this seems to be, someone needs to look at this, because Mr. Stauffer's not going to look at it. You see what Mr. Stauffer's doing is he puts a paper down on the floor for all these things he's doing, like spraying people with sewage and putting sewage into the river, millions of gallons, and not reporting it saying he didn't do it. This is a good time to take a break, Sarah. Oh, okay, you're not taking a break. So anyhow, this is a big deal. We're talking millions of dollars. Multi-millions of dollars, I'm sorry. So this is very expensive, and nobody knows what's going on. City manager certainly doesn't know what's going on. And Mr. Stauffer, if he's anything like he's shown us in the past few months, he has absolutely no idea what he's doing. And I don't think, anyhow, this is an important one. Let's go on to another one. Brownsfield, 8B. 8B is that I'm looking at that. Now, when you do Brownsfield, I want you to take special attention to what the city has done in polluting. City has dumped lime slurry into the wetlands. I think that the city should look at that. Now, where's that located? That's located right near the, they call it, I'm going to call it a station or something like that, near the water tower on South Street. So they got a lot of area. In fact, what that did is that when they dumped it in there, and it keeps oozing and moving forward. I believe it's on private property also. And I've given samples of it to the city, saying, hey, what are you going to do about this? And they just put their head up in the air. So I would like you to look into that for example in that, for the Brownsfield type. Now for the 8A, you're not going to like me to say this, but one of the selection committee members was, he's not here, Edie Galindo. Now Edie Galindo and I have met with Joe Daener, Human Resources Director, and I have made a complaint that what he has done is the same thing as right on here. Right here it is. It's number 5, I believe. No, it's not. It's number... where is it? Okay, here it is. Number 7. It says 1980 to present. No sign. Over 40 years. 40 years. City's policy to ignore laws and to force future flooding by no maintenance of floodways. I'm coming to Eddie Galindo. Located outside city limits as required by 1. Stormwater and Water Management Master Plan of Greater Titusville, 1966. That's law. FEMA requirements to preserve flood zones. That's law. Common sense and logic that water flows downhill. That makes sense. But your city's not doing it. So city conceals the facts from public, state, FDEP, FEMA, and other, such as in city's deliberately false 2019 report, Resilient Titusville. That's co-authored by Eddie Galindo. That's one of these guys who the city has had in the selective committee. Authored by Eddie Galindo and others that shows that part of the city is susceptible to flooding. Looks like I'm messed up on this. Some of it's gone. But anyhow, that's a problem. In other words, I give people information. This is what they say they're going to print, and they don't do it. So the city may be losing millions of dollars because of that. And I didn't get it all on this sheet number 7. I'll have to correct that. We got, let's go to, well, is that I'm looking forward to on 8C, that Welfield, is that somebody will do a cost analysis, and there's an error on page 88 that says that the permitted annual withdrawal rate from Area 3 Welfield is 19 million gallons, 2016 to 2031, and then on page 90 it says it's 219 million gallons. So I believe 219 million gallons is the correct number. However, it's a pitiful amount when you're talking about 500,000 gallons a day. And by the way, is that in the early in the 80s, is that the well field that we had was supposed to be producing 6 million gallons a day, and I was understood from talking to Don Madison it was expected to be indefinitely, but we destroyed so many wells. And they boasted about how well the guy did. He put in low demand wells, pumping at low rates and so forth. And we had a long time. We had some wells that lasted, but we've destroyed so many wells. So now look at what I read to you just a minute ago. Is that now our well fields we're looking at 6 million gallons with all these three together. And so what we have to do definitely is we have to get water from the city of Cocoa. But what are we going to do? Are we going to tear up our wells? In other words, if it's averaging, let's say, 3 million gallons a day for a well field, and what do? Are they going to pump 6 million gallons to make it average out? Okay.
Thank you.
It's a problem. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from council on that? I believe not. So, Member Jordan?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I move that we approve consent agenda items 8A through 8H.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a second by Vice Mayor. Roll call vote.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Consent agenda is passed. City Manager, please
We're on
introduce the
to
ordinances.
ordinances, second reading, public hearing, and related action, and the city attorney will read the quasi-judicial rules and procedures.
During the public hearing portion of the meeting, anyone wishing to speak on a quasi-judicial item, which includes 9A, it also will include on new business, Elizabeth Oaks Townhome Sketch Plat, which is 12B. Anyone wishing to speak on these items must first sign a public hearing agenda card and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table at the entrance to the chamber. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the City Council to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city. Please submit such exhibits to the city clerk. City clerk, have all persons wishing to speak before the City Council signed an oath card swearing to tell the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth? If there is anyone present, including staff and the applicant, who has not signed an oath card that wishes to speak on a quasi-judicial item, please submit a card at this time. City Clerk, have all agenda items been properly advertised?
Yes, sir.
Regarding Ex-Parte Communications, in the event that a council member has received an Ex-Parte Communication, verbal or written, outside of the hearing, the council member shall disclose the identity of the person, group, or entity with whom the communication took place and the subject of the communication, including all opinions or facts discussed. Any written communication must be disclosed and made a part of the record. Also, in the event that a member has conducted an investigation or site visit or received an expert opinion regarding the quasi-judicial items, said visit or opinion shall be disclosed. If written ex parte communications exist, verify that the applicant has received them, an opportunity to review. With regard to quasi-judicial, just a reminder, first council will receive staff's presentation, followed by the presentation of the applicant. Following the applicant's presentation, it will be open for public comment, and the applicant may make a rebuttal. Witnesses may be cross-examined by the applicant and the party. Council's decision will be based upon competent substantial evidence.
Okay, we good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then let's go ahead and staff report. Anything you want to add to
Hang on,
this?
sir. Planning and zoning, this is the First Amendment for the Tranquility Development Agreement. Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as the local planning agency, reviewed this request at their meeting on July 21st, 2021, and recommend approval 7-0. The P&Z members encourage an alternative to using impervious concrete for the walking trails, but keep it ADA compliant. The applicant, Gary Allen Jr., on behalf of Sunbelt Titusville Investments, LLC, and Carolina Holdings II, LLC owners, is requesting the approval of the First Amendment of the Tranquility Development Agreement. The amendment proposes in this request clarifies the approval of the residential block length in excess of 1,000 and the requirement for increased side setbacks or installation of fire sprinkler systems in residential structures, provides for additional time for the owner to complete the initial assessment of a site for a future fire station, and eliminates the requirement to clear a nature trail prior to construction of the trail. The timing of the construction of the natural trail is not being modified. Ms. Busaka will give you her staff presentation at this time.
Now, staff.
Now, in 2014, what was known at that time as Antigua Bay and is now known as Tranquility, the development agreement was approved with several requirements, and the proposal tonight is to change the timing of those requirements, not the requirements themselves. So the first one has to do with the block length. The code says that the council can approve block lengths, think of street lengths, in excess of 1,000 feet. So the first change on page 141 of your package states that the residential block that has been extended to 1,000 feet is on the Indian River with 3 cul-de-sacs, and that it is 2,300 feet long. And that the reason that this block length was approved is to allow, it's very linear there along the river, and this allows a open space area to be immediately behind those rows of houses. The second change is a deletion which relates to the block length, and in this deletion the development agreement required that there be a trail, which would be a walking trail immediately behind these rows of houses. And the development agreement currently requires that the trail be cleared before the first development, before the first certificate of occupancy. But it doesn't require the construction of that trail until much later in the development. So the recommendation from staff is that this clearing should occur at the time that the actual development is occurring, because if it's any substantial amount of time, the clearing will not further the idea that there's going to be real access, because it's not required to be ADA accessible, it's just required to be cleared. So staff would like to see clearing in conjunction with the actual development. The third change is on page 143, and because there is the fire department has some concerns about the length of time that it would be required to go to that site in the event of a fire. The developer agreed to increase the side setbacks or to install fire sprinkler systems in each residential unit. That is being clarified on page 143 in paragraph D. In addition, the information about the nature walk, which was deleted on page 142, has been moved over as far as timing, and that's been put into section 5.6 on page 144. The timing of that construction is not any different. The only thing that's changing is the timing of the clearing. And finally, on page 145, there's an agreement in the current development order that the developer will provide an analysis of a 1 acre buildable site so that the city could perhaps put a fire station there, because there's a need for a fire station on that part of town. And this was supposed to be done 2 years after the effective date of the ordinance, of the development agreement. That 2 years has come and gone, and that analysis has not been completed. However, one of the issues is that the city is not currently prepared to move forward. We don't have the funding right now for the fire station. So we're suggesting that the development agreement be amended to give them an additional 6 months to do this analysis. And at that time, we've also included some additional requirements that we'd like the analysis to contain. We also added language that said that within 60 months of receipt of the written notification by the city that a site is acceptable to the city and suitable for construction of a fire station, the developer shall convey the fee simple title of the property. The Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval with one recommendation, and that is that the developer was encouraged to consider as an alternative using impervious concrete or another impervious surface for the walking trail, as long as it was ADA accessible. And the reason for that, as I understand it, after having watched the tape of the P&Z, is that there is less requirement for stormwater, which will then require less construction in that area, which was intended to be kept natural, except for the walking trail. Are there any questions?
Member Robinson? Member Stokel?
Yep. Just to clarify, in regards to the fire station, it sounds to me like we're extending time because everything's kind of happening at a slower pace, essentially. So there's no reason to stick to that timeline if other things haven't happened yet. I just want to make sure that we're protected in the event of things move forward and then hindsight, oh, there's not enough space for a fire station, or we didn't plan appropriately. It sounds like, from what I'm reading, we have. Does that make sense?
We have looked at the other fire stations in I haven't, the appropriate people have looked at the other fire stations and believe that a 1 acre site, which already has stormwater handled off of that site, will be sufficient. But at this time, there is no money to construct that fire station and to maintain it. My understanding is that it's 1.5 million?
Just the basic firehouse would be about $1.5 million, and then operations for that a year will be another $1.5 million.
But so even though we don't have the funding to complete that at that time, that space in that analysis will still be there. So when we are ready, and if we do need it because of the residents, we are prepared.
It should be here. The new language is 6 months after this is signed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I see no more questions from council. Anything more, Ms. Busaka? The applicant is here. I'd like to give you this moment. Name and address for the record, please.
Gary Allen Jr., 9179.
You come closer.
Gary Allen Jr., 9179 The Lane, Naples, Florida. I just I'm representing the developer, so any questions that the council has, I'm here to answer if I can.
I guess this is not a real specific question to where you're at, but I know we have been through many appearances by those who are working this project over the years with different names. Is there a time frame? Is there this is what we're going to do and this is when we're going to do it? Are we there yet?
We are working with staff. I think they can agree that we are trying everything that we can do to get our final approval. I think that should be on your agenda hopefully very soon for our first final approval.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this project moving forward. It's a big one. It's
we are too.
It's a big enough one that at the mayor's breakfast a month ago down in Vieira, every mayor's there and they give their 5-minute spiel. You guys are part of it. And I mean that seriously. There's a lot of things. There's 48 projects on our board right now. and I look at you as being one we want to talk about a lot. So with that said, is there any questions? I feel like the changes I see are good. They're valid. They're not trivial. They're important. I have no problem with them. Member Robinson.
Yeah, and as I was reading over the package, and I just wanted to kind of understand, is there a relationship between the changing of the length of the block from 1,000 to approximately 2,300 and the location of the possible fire station in the future?
The code requires that any length over 1,000 feet can be approved by council. It just so happens that the current development order does not talk about what the length is over 1,000, so we added the 2,300, and we wanted to clarify which block it was in the entire subdivision. That was not clarified either, so we just are trying to be more precise about what it is that council has already approved.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody else? Member Jordan.
Yeah. This is just being nosy. Okay, it has nothing to do with this because I think this will be approved. But what is your vision as far as when you're going to have the first house built?
Well, we aren't going to be building the houses. We have a few home builders that will be doing that. And for the most part, the individuals will purchase the home sites, and then they will construct the houses with their builder. So there are, I believe, 4 builders at this time that they can choose from.
Okay, but all the lots are sold?
Not sold, contracted, subject to approval from Titusville.
Here?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So when do you think, I heard you say you're going to be bringing back to us, but you would think by late fall or so that
we were hoping to, honestly, we were hoping to already be on, the last month's meeting, but we are working with staff to address any additional comments that they have, and I believe we got those today.
Okay, so this is going to start with your infrastructure, putting the water line down and sewer line down, and how are you doing that? I'm trying to understand your process. I hear as far as the lots is concerned, each individual who buys a lot or deposited money on a lot, they'll have their own construction company to build that, correct? But you're developing
one of the builders that we've that we feel like will work for the community. So we selected a few builders. They're preferred builders, and there are, I think, 4 of them that they can choose amongst. So that they'll kind of control their construction timeline.
But as far as the development is concerned, that's your
That is
right. And
That
so
is.
you got to build roads and everything, because the road that you have now certainly isn't the road that's going to be there for the development.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We've already contracted a general contractor.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's actually some material sitting on site as we speak. So
Okay.
I think they delivered some pipe. The pipe right now is in high demand. So you have to order the time you have to order ahead was significant. So we went ahead and did that, and it's actually sitting on the site.
Okay, I'm with the mayor because, your marketing documents are beautiful for sure, and we're looking forward to seeing something that looks like that out there. So
Yeah, we'll meet or exceed.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think that we're both kind of saying, let's go.
We're with you.
Let's go.
We're with you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any cards?
Thank you.
We have one card at Stan Johnston.
Thank you. Thank you. But you confuse me when you do that, Stan. I'm not ready. Okay. We have no cards. Council, let's see. Member, I think I know what you're doing. Member Jordan.
You think you know what I'm doing?
I think I know what you're going to do.
Absolutely. Thank you. What is your name? Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the First Amendment to Tranquility Antigua Bay Development Agreement, DA number 2021.
I have the motion as stated.
Second.
Vice Mayor seconds. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. I'd like to clarify whether it includes the additional language. We talked about the trail. There was additional language regarding whether it would be asphalt or whether it would be another, or pervious potential surface that is ADA compliant. So I believe Ms. Bisaka had mentioned some language. So I want to make sure the motion to approve includes that language.
Well, the way I understand it, it says from P&Z, it's encouraged. It didn't say it's a requirement.
If I could, I think
Right.
the concern is that right now it says asphalt. So should they do an analysis that would allow them to do pervious concrete, they're afraid that someone will say, well, this says asphalt and won't allow the pervious
It's for
concrete.
flexibility.
So we're just
Okay.
trying, I think that they would probably like some language that would allow them to be flexible. But if their heads aren't shaking up and down, I could be wrong.
I don't see him doing anything.
Okay.
I like the flexibility.
Well, I do too. So
leave it.
we're fine.
Okay, so we will include that, the ability that they can have flexibility as long as it's ADA accessible.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion stands?
Yep.
And the second stands?
It's,
Roll call vote?
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Member Stokel?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, guys, and thank you for being here. City Manager.
On to item 10A, which is an ordinance 17-2021, which is a specific revisions to the firefighters' pension plan and establishes a share plan to provide special benefits for firefighters. This is your first reading. The city attorney will read the ordinance.
This is ordinance number 17-2021, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending Chapter 15, Pensions and Retirement, Article 3, Police Officers and Firefighters Pension Plan of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Titusville, amending Division 5, Section 15-22, Benefits effective June 30th, 2013, and Division 5, Section 15-237, Supplemental Benefit Component for Special Benefits, Chapters 175 and 185 Share Accounts, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, effective date, and incorporation into the code.
This is your first reading of ordinance 17-2021. Your second reading is scheduled for 10 August 2021.
Staff? Ms. Busaka? Nothing? Council questions? Member Robin? No, nothing? Okay, cards? Okay, we have no action required at this time. Next?
On to item 10B, which is ordinance number 18 relating to the review of lot splits and flag lot approval. This is the first reading of ordinance number 18-2021, and the city attorney will read the ordinance.
Ordinance number 18-2021, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the land development regulations to delete provisions related to lot splits and amend provisions related to flag lots by amending Chapter 30 Development Standards, specifically amending Sections 30-140 flag lots and 30-237 public streets and private roads and subdivisions, Chapter 34 Procedures, specifically renaming Article 3 Subdivisions, Division 2 Lot Split, renaming and amending Section 34-113 Lot Split Qualifications, deleting Sections 34-111 Intent, 34-112 Application, and 34-114 Approval, amending Chapter 34 Procedures by amending Sections 34-126 Intent, 34-143 Small Scale Plat Qualifications, and 34-214 Application Classifications and Review Schedules, amending Chapter 37 Definitions by amending Section 37-1 Definitions, and amending Development Review Procedures Technical Manual by deleting Section 8 Lot Split, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, effective date, and incorporation into the code.
This is the first reading of ordinance number 18-2021. The second reading is scheduled for your meeting at 10 August 2021.
Thank you. No staff? Council? Yes, I see several council. Vice Mayor?
Peggy, I was really awake when I was reading this afternoon. When you go to page 212, it says applications for site plan and subdivision review are divided into two classifications as follows. And then it says Class 1 minor improvement, but there's no Class 2. Is there? Or did I
Yes,
miss
there is a
something?
Class 2. A Class 1 is a minor site plan.
Right.
And a Class 2 is the full-blown engineering site plan. And for this process, the staff does not believe that a Class 2 is necessary.
Okay, got it then.
Member Robinson?
Yes, Peggy, as you just mentioned that you did, I watched the planning and Zoning meeting, and when it came to this, there was Brad was trying to make it clear the benefit of doing this. Could you please, because I was a little bit confused after hearing that as well.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
This came about because a few years ago, there was a requirement that all subdivision of land go through a small-scale plat, which requires some relatively laborious fact gathering and a cost. So the staff recommended that we can do what's called a lot split. And basically, you have two pieces of property. You have one piece of property you want to divide into two. Mm-hmm. Well, in the state of Florida, you may divide a piece of property and sell it to anyone, and all you have to do is get a legal description and bring it down to the clerk. And then the clerk takes your money and your legal description, and that becomes a lot.
Okay.
So what we're doing currently is people come in, sometimes they are the ones who did the lot split. Sometimes, in one instance, we have a lot split that happened 12 years ago, and it was 2 people ago that did the lot split. And these poor people have purchased this property, and because they did not go through this formal process, they are inconsistent with the code and can't move forward to develop. So our code requires that the 2 people who own these 2 pieces of land that used to be one piece of land get together, get a survey, do some analysis. Well, in this case, the one property owner doesn't want to work with the other property owner. So we are actually holding up someone who wants to move forward. You may remember Jim Ford came and spoke, and he said he's the gentleman who started this. This is a situation that his client is in because the one group doesn't want to work with the other group. And so because we have no mechanism to catch these lot splits before they happen, what we're doing is we are aggravating people after they happen. Now, the intent of this is that you don't buy a piece of property that you can't build on. And it's well intended, but we have no way to stop it from happening until you could be years down the road. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do is to say we have a portion of the code that says you cannot buy, sell, build on any property which is inconsistent with the zoning code. So if someone were to come in and you bought yourself a postage size stamp, a piece of Graceland, mm-hmm. because you are an Elvis Presley fan, it doesn't mean you can build on it, right? So there are some people who occasionally will get a piece of property that can't be built on because they didn't do their due diligence. But this process is not stopping it. In the 14 years that one of our employees has worked at the city, one time people have come in and asked before they did the lot split. So this, unfortunately, is well intended, but we're not sure it's solving any problems.
Okay.
And just Council, Planning and Zoning did review this, and they voted 5-2, with the 2 members not in favor of this, said the ordinance did not resolve the problem.
That's correct. Okay.
I think it's moving closer. I mean, this is going to be one of those things when I get done with this in 20 years from now, I still didn't understand that. I remember we had a situation up here, I think it was a year or 2 ago, and we had to make a decision about something with a lot split. And so I'm glad there is movement towards it. And I don't know who said it didn't solve it. I get that. But if we're moving closer to, and let's try this, I'm with you. But it is one of the most confusing things I've seen, Member Stokoe.
Just to clarify, because I sat on this item for a while too, I'm not sure that this is something that we can solve fully if somebody does go and purchase, unless something at that level happens where they are purchasing something and the agent or somebody stops them in the process and says, just so you're aware, you cannot do X, Y, and Z. So I do think that this is helpful in the fact that if somebody did purchase it and it is buildable, we're doing what we can to not hold them up. So I do think it's moving in the right direction. And I am conflicted because I don't think we can necessarily solve that issue if somebody's purchasing and it doesn't meet the code. Like, again, that's kind of on them with that buyer beware, but we're going to do our best, and this is why I like this item. We're doing our best to make sure, as long as it meets the code and they're fine, we're not going to try to do anything to hold them up. So I appreciate staff, you guys doing what you can, because this was one at the same thing. I was very confused on it first, and I was like, okay, now it makes sense. So thank you.
See, that's the difference. You were confused at first, and I still am. But Member Robinson,
Oh, it's my
are you
mic.
good? Okay. Any cards?
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, I understand this is quasi-judicial, and you don't have to vote on it or anything like that, but since it's quasi-judicial, you have to let me talk. But I don't really need to talk much. I'm saying this is something that has been very aggravating for a number of people who have been honest about lot splits, and there's been many of them done in the past successfully without a lot of great expense. And I wish that we could go back to something that was more makes sense than that, because the punishment of people has been pretty terrible about what's happened in Titusville. I'm talking about not just lot splits, but the zoning and the wetland zoning and so forth, and taking people's property away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. City Manager.
We're on to item 10C, which is flood regulation ordinance. This is ordinance number 19-2021's first reading relating to floodplain regulations. And the city attorney will read the ordinance.
Ordinance number 19-2021, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending floodplain management standards to be consistent with federal emergency management requirements by amending Chapter 30 Development Standards, specifically amending Sections 30-92 Applicability, C, Basis for Establishing Flood Hazard Areas, 30-100 Definitions, and 30-104 Manufactured Homes, subsection D, Elevation, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, effective date, and incorporation into the code.
This is the first reading of ordinance 19-2021. The second public hearing is scheduled to be heard by City Council on August 10th, 2021. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this ordinance during their meeting on July 21st, 2021, and recommended approval unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Busaka.
Only if you have questions.
Thank you. Council, I see none. Cards.
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, I am obviously speaking against this. Obviously. Why am I obviously speaking against this? Let's look at number 5. What's number 5 say? Number 5 says, from 1985 to present. This involves Mr. Diesel. 1985 to present. Erroneous flood zones, another of city's fraud, deceptive projects. And it involves Mr. Stauffer, too. Big time. Over 36 years of uncorrected, erroneous 100-year floodplains disputed in 1985 by city's freshwater management study, yet unfairly and illegally concealed from the public and FEMA by who? By our city, such as Mr. Stauffer, when he was in that capacity. So what's happened is in 2016, what we did is we've got proof now. From what I said, I've got proof. Do I have proof? Yes, I have proof. Carroll Avenue, Lake Morbeca, Linda, Beatrice, Morbeca. So those streets is that we have a 2016 LOMAR that removed about 80% of homes from the firm map of Baker's substitute, thus releasing some of the city's victims, exposing only a part of fraud and deception. What I did was when I was running for council, I went ahead and I talked to Mrs. Nelson and said, hey, listen, you know, I'm dropping out. I lost my son. I just can't take it for a while. I want you to see what you can do to these people over here on Parkland Estates and so forth, Bay Meadows and so forth, because they're victims, just like those people in Baker's subdivision. Same kind of victims. And we've got a number of victims, other places in the city, because the city has been deceptive and hidden, Mr. Mr. Stauffer hasn't helped at all, neither has city manager. Neither of them will talk to me. They got phones. I don't know why they have phones. They don't use them. Not to talk to me, that's for sure. But anyhow, that's what we got. And we've got homes along War Eagles Boulevard and so forth that still remain in the flood zones, not corrected by city's deliberate and unfair failure to notify the public and FEMA of known disputes, errors of city's formats. In fact, FEMA contacted the city to say, do you have any information to dispute these firm maps? And what do you think the city said? Absolutely no, but they do, and they still do. So that's why I pose this. I don't think you should have. This is going to the fellow I talked to years ago, Mr. Rodriguez. I don't want you to approve this because it's rotten. The city of Titusville has been dirty rotten with the firm zones. They're erroneous. We know that we've got proof. 2016 Lomar.
Thank you.
Again. Thank you.
Thank you. No other cards? Council, any more comment? We move to the next one.
On to 11A, which is the Landscape Gateway Concept Updates. On March 10th, 2020, City Council approved a work order to Kimberly Horn Incorporated in the amount of $25,180 to provide engineering consulting services, including but not limited to landscaping design, plans and preparation, utility coordination, and survey services for the improvements of 9 gateway locations. The provided concept plan shows the opportunity areas, but further direction is needed before moving this concept forward into the final design and permitting phase. Staff is recommending that council provide staff direction for implementation of the landscape gateway locations and designs. And Mr. Cook is here to answer questions that you may have on this item.
Questions? I see no questions for Mr. Cook. We have cards.
Yes, sir. Kay Say Nong.
Yes, I'm Casey Nines, and I still live on Maryland Avenue in Titusville. The Landscape Gateway Concept Plan in your packet outlines landscape upgrades on major roadways utilizing the Landscape Trust Fund. The intent of the Landscape Trust Fund, according to this resolution, is to beautify public properties by landscaping. This fund accrues monies when developers choose to pay for trees they cut down in their new developments rather than replace them. As of March 9, $433,000 existed in the Landscape Trust Fund per the finance manager. To accrue this sum, a lot of trees were cut down, yet few shade trees are provided by the 9 landscape projects in this plan, mostly ground covers. How much of these funds will be used for these 9 projects? I was asked the city manager, but I wasn't able to get that information. How will these projects benefit citizens? Will they provide for a shade tree next to a bus stop for them to sit under while they wait for the bus? Will the projects provide shade, reducing temperatures as would street trees in residential areas? Street trees increase property values and so add revenues to the city. The City Council approved a work order in the amount of $25,000 contracting with an engineering consulting services for these plans. Yet per the LDR Article 9, Section 3121, the Titusville Environmental Commission is to establish Titusville as a tree city and act as the tree board. The code indicates TEC is to develop a plan to plant trees and shrubs in parks and along streets. Will the TEC commissioners have any input on these 9 projects and the expenditures of the Landscape Trust Fund? Allow the TEC to fulfill its responsibilities per the land development regulations and as the city's tree board. Allow them to consider these landscape projects and the expenditure of the Landscape Trust Fund. Fulfill all 4 requirements of the Tree City USA, including a community forestry program for the planting and care of city trees. Any questions?
Questions? I see none.
Did you have a question?
I don't see a light though. Now I see a light.
I have a lot of questions, Kay. A lot of them for Kevin to start with. And then I am considering what you're saying also.
Okay, I'll sit down for
Okay.
now then. You can always call me back.
Okay, well, go ahead. No, hold on. Member Robinson.
Yes, I just want to ask the staff, is there, is there anything wrong with let TEC participate in this process?
No, sir. We just want to get the concept of it so that we can get council's ideas, and then we'll come back to you after we run it through the TEC, as well as getting a price for you.
Okay, like that.
Are you done? I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Kevin, and I will first say that the gateways seem to come up all the time as one of the major issues in our little Saturday morning meetings, any workshop where we have, it'll come up in the budget meetings. Gateways are important. First impressions are real important. So that being said, I find them important, and I'd like a little summary, Kevin, if you could, on the projects that we have, and are there some trees involved? I would not be opposed to having some trees. We're the tree city, and I think it would be good to have some trees. I don't know exactly plant for plant what you've got going. I'm sure whatever it is going to look great, but I'm just curious if you can give me a little summary.
Well, what the consultant proposed was he looked at what's going to be allowed to be permitted, because the first 5 locations of all state roads. Some of them are high-speed roads around 95, which means you're not going to be able to put oak trees. So they pared down, and if you look at the agenda packet that starts on page 247, they kind of go through the high opportunity larger trees, which are a lot of sable palms, fan palms, some live oaks. And they go through the other opportunity areas, and they end with a ground cover. And then as you go through each of the individual sheets, they're showing you what their menu would be as far as where the large trees could go. For instance, 95 and 50, they can't put any trees in the median. The speed there will prohibit it, so you can't put a tree at all. So those will be ground cover areas. Likewise, we asked them to add a couple of city streets, which is where we added some of our Hopkins intersections to it. And that's one of the directions we do need the council to give us is we certainly can put a work order out to have them design and permit all 9 locations, but the state road ones will take a more effort. They'll require landscape architect surveys and permits of the DOT. The city ones won't. So if there's some you'd like to see first, for economy-wise, we may not want to put all 9 in one work order and move forward the 295 intersections or any of the mix you care to. And that's really kind of the direction we're looking for. But each of these areas will have some trees. They may not be shade trees. I will tell you from a maintenance standpoint, a live oak next to a sidewalk next to a road is really rough for streets because they will destroy the asphalt, curbing, and the sidewalks, and we spend a lot of effort trying to repair those so trip hazards don't exist. So we don't like live oaks near our infrastructure for that reason. Usually a large oak tree planted in a yard is great. It's away from the sidewalk, but we spend a lot of time taking out sidewalks and cutting down some trees because they are damaging the city's infrastructure heavily. Likewise, we also had neighborhoods that asked for a lot of trees to be removed after the 2004 hurricane season because they had sheer amounts of tree damage that just predicated the need for some of the older trees to be taken out. But if you look at most of this, a lot of this incorporates palm, especially around the downtown area. That's going to match the downtown corridor more so than shade trees out along Garden Street. It'll correspond with Sandpoint Park where they interact at Garden and Forest Garden and US 1 interchange. Some of the other areas, like the Hopkins ones, are tight in spots, like Knox McCrae, been by it. There's a big tree there already. There's a couple trees. There's really not much more they can put in there, but they did find some areas to put some ground cover. So there's a pretty good mix of opportunities. And what they'll do in the next step is they will define what plant will go what location, and define how much it's going to cost, which is kind of the big item. But from our standpoint, if we put a consultant out for all 9, we're going to spend a lot of money, potentially not have enough money to install all 9. So if we have priority areas, it would help us steer our efforts towards the 2 or 3 high priority areas and get our consultant to price out his cost and what we anticipate the construction cost to be.
Well, I appreciate that. And let me make it clear before I move on, I've never seen you do a job that wasn't well done. I would just, like if where it comes in, we could put some trees here. I think trees are more impressive, people coming in anyway. Cost is a factor. Oaks along concrete is not a good thing. But I know you keep that in the back of your head, and you always do a great job, and I appreciate that. And Vice Mayor.
I was trying to figure out, what kind of input you wanted from us, but if we're looking at maybe going for a couple of the larger areas, more impressive areas, 95 kind of areas, my suggestion would be State Road 50 at the intersection of 95 and Garden Street at the intersection of 95 and maybe Cheney Highway and US 1 north and south, and then US 1 Garden Street area going north-south. And then maybe a couple of the smaller roads. I would love to see trees, but I understand that there are areas that we just can't do it. And the bad part is our shrubs, we got to be able to see over them and see the traffic that's coming, so we don't want to cause a hazard for people. So that would be my direction, but I think TEC does need to weigh in somewhere in here.
Member Stokel.
Yep. Kind of in the similar, opinion. I definitely want to see the main corridors, the 95 of Garden and 50 would be my top choices if we had to go. I feel like, as the mayor said, that's the gateways. Everyone wants to, when they feel like they come into Titusville, have that clean, nice look. While I care about trees and we're doing a lot with trees, I'll be honest, my personal take when it comes to the gateways, I'm not so concerned about the shade and those things. I'm more concerned about the look and the aesthetics. I'm more concerned about that for this particular area. When it comes to other areas or parks, development, those things, I care more about it. But just for this particular area, I'm primarily concerned with what it looks like. And then, as the Vice Mayor said, safety, especially. I know there's some areas where I drive around town and I'm like, that tree needs to go because I can't see. Yeah. So that would be my, my opinion. I don't know if that's enough direction on what I'm thinking, or you're needing more.
If the council's consensus is the 95 intersections, that would be, like I said, the next step, we'll go back to Kimberly Horn. We'll ask them to do a scope for us based upon those concepts, to take that to design permitting at the DOT. So they'll price that out. We'll come back before you. And what we can do is, in the process of their finalization of their design, we can route that through the TEC to let them see it as it comes to the final version as they start the permitting process for input before we move it forward. But yeah, I have no problem if the consensus is the 95 corridors or the US 1 intersections are the priorities. We certainly can move that forward. Like I said, we just need to pare down, I think, the 9 to something. The design side's not going to be the cost. It's going to be the implementation and the actual construction that goes with it. The price will catch up to what we have allocated. So,
Member Stokel, you done? Yes. I'd like to add, yes, obviously coming off the interstates are our big gateways. But from a pride factor, and I don't know if we even call it a gateway, but I really think coming from the north and the south on US 1 is a big deal. When you see "Welcome to Titusville," or if you just if you don't even see the sign coming, south from Mims, it's kind of a big deal when you're coming into Titusville south from Mims, especially when you come up in and you get over the bridge and you can look to the left and you can see a bit of the marina. You can see the Max Brewer, and we're going to see something real pretty on the right-hand side where Titusville used to be. That's going to look really good soon. I'd kind of like some kind of a grand entrance there. Maybe not as much a grand entrance from the south, but I think it's real important when our neighbors from the south find themselves going north on US 1 through Titusville, that their entrance into Titusville from Melbourne, Palm Bay, Rockledge, Cocoa is impressive. I have reason to go down to Cocoa on a fairly regular basis. And on Grissom, they have some pretty impressive welcome to Cocoa signs. They're not huge, and there's not really a lot of shrubbery around them, but they're noticeable. And I think ever since I started doing this, I paid a lot more attention to that sort of thing. So, I think that the interstate entryways and US 1 north and south, I'd kind of like there to be a, here we are. You know, like I said, we are Titusville. That's what I kind of wanted to say. Anybody else?
We do have one more card.
Okay.
Stan Johnston.
Okay. Good time.
I believe it's important. I have no objections to what the city is doing on this, but I did have concerns that have already been expressed here. But I have also other concerns when we're greeting Titusville, is because some people even watch city council meetings. I want you to understand is that I'm going to be, every time I come here, I'm going to be bringing these signs that say sewage spray compliments of the city of courtesy of city council and Mr. Stauffer. I'm going to do that. I'm going to also have this sign fraud. So what are people going to think about that? When you think about what's going on here and the money's being spent, I think you need to apologize. You need to be, this is shameful what the city has done. It's shameful. Spraying people with sewage and millions of gallons. Anyhow, thank you.
Any other card? Kevin, city manager, are we feeling like we have direction and that we need to vote? Member Jordan?
I just thought you were going to forget about me.
No, I kept saying, no.
I was interested in what the council was thinking, and I really agree with Member Stokel. I think she hit the nail on the head, and actually with everyone. As far as the entryway, that's what bothers me all the time. I don't like our signs at all. They're boring as all get up, if you ask me, and you can't see them. You know, they're grayish and
coming in from MIMS.
Yeah, but when I went to Cocoa, I think yesterday, they had a sign.
Yeah, I told you.
Yeah, and it was a really nice sign. We really need to be proud of the city we're in by making sure our signage says we're in Titusville. I certainly agree as far as trees is concerned. I love trees too. I kind of like palm trees. I kind of like palm trees. You can put palm trees in, by sidewalk and stuff like that, and not worry too much about it. But oak trees and other things like that, you just can't do it. Unfortunately, it'd be nice, you go to Savannah, all you see is trees for sure, a lot of trees, but we just have to be careful. The only other concern I have is the maintenance of even the ground cover. I assume there's going to be sprinkler systems and all of that, correct?
Yeah, most of these areas are already sprinklered, and the maintenance would be covered by JB Lawn, who's already our contracted maintenance. So we would have that covered. But yeah, we would cover the only time that unsprinkled area might come into play is if we try to push further south on US 1 towards the 405 interchange, where it comes back to the Space Center. That area has never really been developed by anything. It's just the more rural area for US 1. So if we were to look at that area, we'd either have to go to Florida-friendly zero landscape, zero irrigation, or add irrigation. But the other areas on 50 Garden, we already have irrigation in. So.
Just an aside, one of the things that I have said over and over again, I've been talking to the city manager about, is the lighting that we have, the poles that we have in the center of US 1. Those are the ugliest things that you ever can have. I mean, you go to the city of Cocoa / Rockledge, you have these nice lights that shine on the roads and stuff. That'd be real nice if we could have something like that, because I'm sure those poles have been there forever. And I think those are Florida Power and Light lines, correct?
No, those are ours. They
are?
They were a DOT system that was being taken out in the 80s. It was gifted to the city. The only way the lights stayed in was the city took over the maintenance.
Right, you need to gift it back.
DOT would like to see them gone too, but it's a large overhaul to replace that entire system.
No, I understand.
that is on your deferred maintenance list. We have a white gateway lighting project. And I don't remember the amount. It was very expensive.
Yeah, over $2 million per phase. I think we had 3 phases
$2 million
to do.
per what?
Per phase. We broke it up into three sections, one being downtown. The other option we have as FPL is looking at the ability to take over some of the FPL systems are not LED. The state doesn't like LED lights installed by FPL.
Right.
But we're looking at some options of those that we can, in the future, we'll take them out. They've been so outdated, they have to be custom made every time we replace a pole. because they're using 1945, 46 plans that have to be respun and redone. So
That's why you were smiling.
hey, we keep it up. It stays
Yeah.
up. We
Yeah.
keep our lighting agreement DOT done well. Just to address real quick with the signage, we did allocate some money at mid-year to put $45,000 towards the signs, and staff's going to come back with some presentation of what we can do with the existing signs. And one of the options we thought about is if the council wishes to go down the path of looking at new sign packages, which would be along what Cocoa Rock, others have personalized their signage, entry signage, to go away from what we have and introduce a new sign design. So Sandy's going to bring that back, but that's kind of what she's looking at is one would be an overhaul of the existing signage, which obviously they're going to more paint and redoing the face, or replacing the signs with a new package, which would entail hiring in a company to give us some options. But a lot of what you're seeing from Palm Bay's and the other Daytonas they're going to a custom for their city sign packages now for entries. So it's really just up to the council what you'd like to see. Sandy's working on the what we can handle as far as refacing our signs, but if we want to go down the road of changing them, then that would be a different path that we go down.
Oh, I'd like to hear more about that, and I think that goes to what I've heard Member Jordan say for 2 years, that our signs are boring. And when I drive in through Cocoa and some others, and I certainly think we're the best city of them all, but I will say they have some well-done signs that, even have their little seal on there, and it looks pretty good. So that being said, we have certainly given direction. Do we need to vote on this, or?
We're good.
Okay. Like I said, the interstates, and let's not forget the North and the South U.S. one. All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate it. City Manager.
It's budget time. This is item 12A, which is the proposed tentative operating millage. The city manager's proposed general fund budget for FY22 is balanced, applying a millage rate of 7.2145, which is your current millage rate. This request is to set the tentative operating millage rate at a higher rate to allow flexibility throughout the budget hearing process. This tentative millage rate yields an additional $2,365,969 in ad valorem revenue, which could be allocated as council sees fit during the budget workshop and public hearing process. In accordance with Florida Statute 200.065, the final adopted millage rate may be lower than and may not exceed the proposed tentative millage rate. Staff recommends that City Council set the tentative operating millage rate for the FY 2022 budget at 8.24161, which is 10% above the rolled back rate of 7.2145 mils. Set the voted debt service. Say again?
The rollback is 6.8586. The current is 7.
Gotcha. You're right. Set the voted debt service millage rate for riverfront acquisition referendum of 0.2941 mils. The maximum levied authorized by the Series 2005 General Obligation Bonds is 0.5930 mils. And Bridget's here to answer any questions. You have your proposed budget book that we will begin sending you some slides for your workshop.
Ms. Bridget, do you have anything you want to add? Member Jordan? Member Stokoe?
Just clarifying, because I'm voting in favor of this. This just allows us to, when we go through the budget process, if we wish to increase it, which I don't at this time, this allows us the flexibility. If we don't do this, we will be locked in at that rate. So I'm in favor of this.
Anybody else? No? Call the cards, please.
One card, Stan Johnston.
Oh, I didn't even look up that time. Thank you, sir. I need a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the proposed tentative operating millage of 8.2461 mils and proposed tentative voted debt service millage at 0.2941 mils.
I have a motion from Member Jordan and a second from Member Stokoe. Roll call vote.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Yes. Member Stokel?
Yes.
Or Robinson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. City Manager?
On to 12B, which is the sketch plat for Elizabeth Oaks Townhomes, and this is a quasi-judicial matter. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this item during their meeting on July 21st, 2021, and recommended approval unanimously 7-0. Elizabeth Oaks Townhomes is a proposed 28 two-story townhome units across 6 buildings located at the southeast corner of East Whispering Hills Road and Elizabeth Avenue. Staff report describes the consistency within the zoning code, the future land use element, and the sketch plat requirements as part of your attachments. The development also received waivers and variances due to the small size of the property and other unique characteristics of the site. This information is also provided for you in your staff report. So Ms. Bisacca will provide information about this, and the applicant's representative is here.
Very good. Ms. Busacca.
The requirements for the sketch plat are shown on pages, let me get this right, on page 282 of your staff report. And what this report says is that this has been reviewed for consistency with the sketch plat requirements, and it has met those requirements. In order to look at how this development is laid out, because it's a small site, and as I said, there are some unique circumstances to it. There has been a series of waivers which the staff, either the administrator or the development review committee, can do under the code. These are described, and essentially they are changed to include a pond in the landscape buffer, to allow a driveway and access easement in the landscape buffer at the south boundary of the property, and then several design requirements to allow less than the minimum width of the driveway pavement width, less than the minimum street right-of-way, to allow an alley at the back of the lots, to allow for ribbon curb, and to allow less than the minimum parking space dimension of 20 feet except for ADA. In addition to that, the Board of Adjustment and Appeals approved several variances. This is the first step of the process, and the next step will be the preliminary plat, which will be reviewed by the staff, and then the final plat will come back to the council. I want to highlight one unique situation in this plat, and that is that there is currently, and this is shown to you on page, you have to look real closely, on page 274, there is currently 2 landlocked parcels to the south of the subject parcel who are using an informal access. Staff has looked and cannot find an easement on that property. So what the applicant has decided to do, and this will be reviewed later at the preliminary plat, is to actually provide an easement so that these people that are currently using access across property they don't own as a driveway will have a formal access easement. The the code requires that during preliminary plat, that the proposed reservation easements and alleys and any areas to be dedicated to public uses or sites rather than residential use will be approved at the preliminary plat. So although we have identified this as an issue, the easement will not be required until the preliminary plat per the code. If you have any questions, I can help, and I know that the applicant is here.
Any question? Member Robinson.
Yes. Peggy, was there any requirements or anything done about zone changes in this?
This was zoned in 1993, I believe. Let me look. This was zoned in 1993 for high-density residential, and that 1993 date is when they did the administrative rezonings for a large number of parcels in the city. So this has been here this zoning has been here for a long time.
Yeah, because I know it's going to back up right behind those condemned apartments that we can't find the owner to. And I just wanted to know that we have to go through. I see on here it's zone R3.
It is. And in this, there's also some zoning, R3 zoning, which some of these are actually single-family homes, but the zoning is the high density.
Okay.
Oh, nobody else. Cards?
Sir,
Oh, I'm sorry, applicant. The applicant representative here? Come on up, please.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Kim Fisher at 1614 White Dove Drive in Winter Springs. Thank you, board. I first want to say thank you to staff. They've been great to work with. They've returned all emails, phone calls to me. They've been very supportive. We've been working long, hard, and diligently on this project for a while, so I do want to thank them. This project, my client who drove around Titusville, and we saw a lot of the typical residential units that were 2 apartments upstairs, 2 apartments downstairs, and that is what the first consideration was when they purchased this property, is to do the same thing, which is littered all over the city, that you've got 2 units upstairs, 1 building, 4 units. And then they looked at the area, and I don't think we need more of that product, so they're going to be doing townhomes, which are garages that hopefully in this transitional area will encourage home ownership, which I think you need a lot more of, instead of more rental residential buildings that we don't. So I'm here for any questions if you have any. Again, I'm thanking staff because they've been wonderful throughout this process, and if you've got any questions, I'm here to address them.
Member Jordan.
Yeah, just curious, what would these be going for?
I don't know. I'm not part of the builder, and that's on the building side. We will do the infrastructure, get it entitled, and then we'll be working with the builder. We're working with one right now. I'm going to guess just with current economy, the way it is, you're going to probably be in that 180 to 200,000 range.
And the square footage?
Probably close to 1,600.
1,600.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there going to be security or anything around?
No. These will be regular townhomes. I think it's like 6 units each one. They're debating whether or not the end units will be double car garages, and if because sometimes it'll go double, single, double. That's a mix that we'll get to when we get to the building stage. But they are planned to be 2-story townhomes with garages.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
To follow that, are you looking at medium income families?
Yeah, it's starter homes.
So this isn't necessarily designed low income area.
No, you're definitely in some gentrification and transitional areas, but the owner feels that it'll be supported for a starter home community.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Member Stokel.
That's kind of what I was going at. I think that I appreciate, it sounds like the developer did look around and wanted to do what he felt was best. And I think that I appreciate it. I think it's going to be a nice addition for our community.
Thank you.
I too appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And if we need to call you, or if you want to get up at the end, we can do that again. Thank you. Okay, anybody else on the council with a word or two? Okay, then now we call cards.
Laura Dandridge.
Hi, I'm Laura Dandridge. I am at 1355 Elizabeth Avenue. Our house and our property is right beside this proposed development. My concern is the relocation of the access road, Mockingbird Lane, which, if I recall from their original proposal here, was to be within their property with an opaque fence going alongside. So if they do that, what is it going to do for our access to the side of our property, as well as the two residents that live behind us, how they are going to access their homes. This road has been there. I'm 51 years old, and was there before I was there. So whether or not we're going to have access to our property or our homes with the building of this project, I don't know, and I haven't seen it on their sketches that have been done. Our property has a fence that goes along the north side, but just on the further north side, we have additional 5-foot strip of land. So where their opaque fence and property line would meet ours, I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be any type of, I don't know. I don't know what their proposal is for where the two properties meet. As I said, our fence line is not the edge of our property line, and then where the access road is, I don't know where this is going to fit in there and whether we would have access as residents. And that's one of the big concerns that I have.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody who can answer that question?
You want to, Ms. Dandridge, here's a map. If this will help you.
Sure. I think staff briefed you ahead of time. We do have, these are an old plat, don't quote me on the year, maybe from the 1920s. And there was an easement that was dedicated to the properties to our east from the property to the south. However, which happens a lot, the dirt road was actually put on our property instead of where it's supposed to be. So as part of this, we are going to be granting an easement to the two properties that utilize the driveway through our property. Right now, there's no instrumentation in place. There is no easement on our property for this access, and we are going to be granting that to the two neighbors to the east.
Okay, thank you, and I hope she can get that understood. Okay, thank you. Any other cards?
Yes, sir. The last card is Dan Johnston.
My name is Stan Johnston. You don't like to hear that, but there is instrumentation. It's right here. It's right here on the survey. When you describe this lot as landlocked, that's not true. These lots are here's for example. Here's a house. I can't get my glasses on.
Your glasses are on. The other glasses.
It gives address of two of these houses is Mockingbird Lane. Look on the map and it says Mockingbird Lane. If you go out there to the property, you'll see a street sign that says Mockingbird Lane. None of that's now they show this Mockingbird Lane on there, but they don't describe it. Now, I'll tell you what, a site plan requirement is when you have a road on your property, you're supposed to identify it. This site plan does not identify Mockingbird Lane, but city streets map does it. The Titusville police, the post office identifies it as these houses on Mockingbird Lane. It says Mockingbird Lane and it says no outlet. Now that is proof, and the building department recognizes it. Building department when they do improvements on these houses, they get permits, for example, to put water heaters on, things like that. They recognize that these people have access to their houses. Now, when you don't recognize it, or when the city attorney doesn't recognize it, you're making a big mistake. A big mistake. I'm saying this not as just a person. I'm saying this as a registered professional engineer. This survey is full of crap. It says on here, number 4, note number 4, let me read it. It says, underground foundations utilities were not located. Site is vacant of buildings or other fixed improvements. That's the improvement. Those people drive that thing, that they've been driving that street for over 50 years. It's there. It's not there. You can go out there and see it. You can see the mailboxes. For this site plan to ignore that is nonsense, complete nonsense. And I'm saying that from working for Brevard County under Peggy Bisaka. I'm saying that for working for site plan development and site plan review. You can't do it. I'm saying it as a professional engineer registered since 1980. I'm saying this as a registered engineer who's done numerous site plans. You can't do it. It's stupid, 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 stupid. I can't believe that anybody, any attorney would even consider it. I can't believe it. You need to get yourself an attorney to say, I brought this up to Mr. Broom. This survey is nonsense. It shows it right here, and your site plan is nonsense. Nonsense. I can't believe you're doing this. This is stupid. Stupid to the nth degree. I'm ready to hear your questions.
You're out of time. No, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, think about it. We'll go to court, and I'll help pay for it.
Go. Have a seat. You're good. Any other cards?
I'll laugh about it. Go ahead.
All right. So, anything you want to add as the applicant?
Yes. I, too, am a registered engineer.
Oh, boy.
I, too, have spent considerable time working for government, county engineer, city engineer, what have it. This isn't uncommon. This is not uncommon at all. So this isn't this is a private driveway that you've put a sign up. Happens all over. This is not a public street. Does not have a public street sign. I would think.
Let her talk, please.
Yes, it's private. This is not, through the original plat, through our survey, through our title work, through our discussions with Public Works. There is no maintenance on this road. This is a dirt driveway with a sign on it. So,
Mr. Johnston, help me.
That's not true.
If you continue to talk, you're going to, thank you.
I'm just going to go by our conversations with City of Titusville Public Works, so I don't, sorry. Okay, so as I was saying, we do title work. We get a title opinion. It has a deed to it. There's title insurance. There's the original plat. There is no recorded easement. There is no right-of-way. We are giving the two properties to the east an easement. That will be a legal instrument, so they now have legal access through their property. So that is what we are giving. Regardless of what's there or what's not there, the end result is the same. We are going to be dedicating an easement so that they have ingress, egress.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
If I could also, the site plan is the preliminary plat, and that will be reviewed at the next stage. This is not a sketch plat requirement.
Okay, Member Jordan.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the sketch plat for Elizabeth.
Hold on, Mr. Johnston. Enough. Enough. You don't talk to the other people in the crowd. You've had your say. You had your 3 minutes. She tried to have her time, and you kept interrupting her. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. You will do better than that. You will do better than that. Okay? That's it. That's it. That's your warning. You can't keep on blurting out like that. You know that. Thank you. Mr. Jordan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the sketch plat for Elizabeth Oaks Townhomes.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second. Roll call vote.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 12C, which is the US 1 sanitary sewer installation. On November 30th, 2020, Trimcore Construction of Florida, LLC, requested assistance from the North Brevard Economic Development Zone for the purpose of installing a sanitary sewer line of approximately 11,120 linear feet on a section of US 1 between State Route 405 and 5650 Washington Avenue, and the construction of a new lift station 56 at 4710 South Washington Avenue. The North Brevard Economic Development Zone Board approved the project concept as well as incentive funding and up to the amount of $2.5 million. The North Brevard Economic Development Zone is now requesting that the city authorize using its portion of the North Brevard Economic Development Zone's tax increment financing to complete the project. The current estimated cost is $2.2 million, At present, with the city's TIF being roughly $1.5 million, and the TIF revenue projections are estimated in the range of $500,000 for the next 3 years. Once approved, the timeline for completion of the sanitary sewer and lift station construction project is approximately 20 to 24 months. Because the current sewer system's insufficiency in capacity, as well as outmolded lift station construction in the 1960s, the absence of sanitary sewer lines, there's been significant challenges to economic development around this section of US 1. In addition, this project is necessary because the absence of a sanitary sewer has precluded any new expansion in this area. Second, the availability of sanitary sewers serves as an inducement for attracting development. Number 3, the construction of the sewer infrastructure results in job creation, stimulates the investment from the private sector, and enhances a community's tax base and contributes to every type of development. We have our Economic Development Director, Lisa Nicholas, here, as well as Mr. Post, and the developer of Trim Core, Justin, is back there. So,
thank you. Staff, Ms. Nichols.
Just a comment. This is just an outstanding project, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you. I will say that I am privileged to be on the NBDZ and the zone and hear the presentations on this. And I pretty much do that, pretty much listen to where this is going and when it got started. And my thought then, my thought now is this is a win-win for us. We are a developing city, we're a growing city, and where I see, and I'm not the expert, but where the next biggest growth will be south. And US 1 South, you can't grow if you don't have the sewer lines. So to have a project that is going to need the sewer lines and we're going to benefit from those sewer lines, I can think of nothing to say except let's go. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's a win-win, and it's one of those things where the train's going and we need to jump on as quick as we can. Member Jordan.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you, Mr. Mayor, and to me, this is probably one of the easiest decisions that the council would ever make, for sure. And to have a relationship where we can actually have a developer who is willing to put his money forward to help the city. We normally do not do future projects, if you will, but to be able to have a relationship with a developer who's willing to put the money down and we guarantee and get him his money back, I think it's just the way we should go. So we should be proud to be able to do something like this, because if he didn't do it, it's not going to get done. For
Absolutely,
sure. So,
and totally agree. And I go back to the term that comes to mind for me is don't miss the train. We got to get on, and we've got to be a part of this and benefit from this. And I'll use one of the things I've said about this before, and I don't know exactly how pertinent it will be in the end, but we're needing a fire station down there, and you can't have a fire station if you don't have the sewer lines. Mm-hmm. So that alone is important enough to say, let's get on this train. Vice Mayor.
And I think I agree with you guys. I think economically is necessary. Environmentally it's necessary, because we've got an old lift station down there that isn't working quite the way it should, and I think is win-win. So I think this is an easy yes.
Anybody else from council? Member Robinson.
Yeah, I understand that how we're using the dollars. I thank both of you for a good briefing on this past week or so ago. My question is, and I know that there's some more steps that has to be gone through to finalize it. Is it normal? Is it normal if what is the source of the city using these types of dollars for doing sewer projects?
Because the North Brevard Economic Development Zone and the city's portion of the tax increment financing that is very routinely utilized for infrastructure projects, it's actually highly encouraged.
Okay.
And that's all I see there. Do we have cards?
We do not at the individual left, so no, sir.
Okay. City Manager, am I ready to go? We ready to go with a motion?
Mayor, I just want to point out to council, some of the attachments include what's labeled debt obligation additional language. In your package, our bond counsel has recommended the insertion of, in section 3.2, city obligations, and this is recognizing that currently there are TIF dollars associated with the Miracle City Mall redevelopment project, which has priority. And this language identifies that is debt service payments on debt obligations of the city in connection with the mall project. She asked for that clarification to be inserted in this. So any motion to approve, I would like to include this additional language.
And that would be Member Jordan.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the use of the city's portion of North Brevard Economic Development Zone's tax increment financing for US 1 sanitary sewer installation and lift station construction project, and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement along with the additional wording that the attorney referenced.
Member Stokel?
Second.
You good? Okay, Member Stokel has second. I just wondered if you had something you wanted to add.
No, that was it. I was just getting ready to
Okay,
vote.
Member Stokel, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Yes. Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes, we move to D. The city manager.
Appreciate it. Item 12D, which is the American Rescue Act Water Resources Projects and Programs. As council recalls, we provided the overall program of how we intended to use the first installment of the ARPA funds. We brought two items before you last council, and we're bringing the remaining three items before you now. The first item, again, is water and sewer infrastructure projects, and there's two grants involved here. At your July 2021 meeting, City Council approved the initial utilization of American Rescue Plan Act funds for investment in water and sewer. The department has identified two projects and two programs to be funded by ARPA dollars. The two capital improvement projects are designed and ready to bid and are discussed below. The first project is the Causeway lift station. This lift station was installed over 50 years ago with a dry well, wet well configuration. The wet well is brick manhole structure that is approximately 18 feet deep and is showing signs of degradation. The current project is estimated, and again, it is ready to go at $800,000. The second project is the Armstrong Chemical Addition Project. Currently, the Armstrong facility is under pre-construction permits submitted by FDP for the use of temporary caustic system for further treatment of the water area. As part of our regular flushing and sampling programs, we have observed the pH in the water has been lower than the optimum range. This project includes the construction of a permanent facility, including chemical containment for all bulk chemicals, along with the associated chemical storage tanks, feed pumps, and dosage control systems. To complete these tasks, Water Resources estimates the construction costs at $600,000. The two grant programs that we're proposing is the Backflow Preventer Program. A backflow preventer is a cross-connection, is an arrangement of pipes, fittings, fixtures, and devices that connect a non-potable water system to a potable water system through which flowback could occur. This flowback could introduce contaminants into the drinking water system. Florida DEP requires that all community water systems establish and implement a written cross-connection program. To assist local businesses with the startup costs and to help offset the adverse impacts of COVID pandemic, the city proposes to use $100,000 in ARPA funds to help. The program will require grants reimbursing local businesses for the cost of purchase and installation of backflow preventers within city limits. The initial request is $100,000 and may be expanded on the popularity of the program. The final grant is grease interceptors. All businesses that commercially prepare food for distribution are required to install approved grease interceptor systems. To assist local businesses and owners with startup costs and to help offset the adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemic, the city proposes to use $300,000 in ARPA funds to help. The program will provide grants reimbursing local businesses for the cost and purchase and installation of grease trap interceptors within the city limits. The initial request of $300,000 may be expanded based on the popularity of the program. Staff will follow the city's procurement, contracting, and grant administration procedures in accordance with city policies. It's recommended that Council approve the following ARPA investments in water and sewer: the Causeway lift station improvements at $800,000, Armstrong Chemical Addition Project $600,000, backflow preventers $100,000, and grease interceptors $300,000, with the associated budget amendments for each of these items.
Very good. And no staff down there, so we'll move forward. Council, any questions?
Sean's here if you need any questions.
Thank you, Sean.
Yes.
Council? Yes, I see Council. Vice Mayor Nelson.
Hi, Sean. The grease interceptors, would that include people who have already moved forward with putting their grease interceptors in?
At this point, the program is still under development, and that would be how the reimbursements will work. And
Okay.
so, but the draft that I'm working on currently does not contemplate retroactive.
Because this was sort of my thought, is from here going forward, I thought that we were going to be getting much better. Our businesses would be much more open, although I understand our COVID cases are going back up. So my thought is the people who really need to be reimbursed are the people from, say, the last year that in hard times have spent the money and put in grease interceptors.
Okay. That's certainly something that we can look at and see if that's an
Okay.
appropriate use of the funds in accordance with the ARPA requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mayor, if I could add a comment.
Absolutely.
As stated, this does have to be in compliance with ARPA, with the interim final rule on how we use the funds. According to the rules, the recipients were required to maintain records on how businesses that receive assistance were affected by the negative economic impacts of the pandemic and how this aid provided response to those impacts. My understanding is the city is hiring an outside firm, an auditor, if you will, to evaluate our projects and give us assistance in evaluating them and making sure they are in compliance with the rules. So understand the action tonight is to approve these programs in contract and procurement, but I would suggest that also a condition of this is that they are vetted through that auditor and that we determine they are in compliance with ARPA, and if not, then we come back to you, advise you, and maybe reallocate those funds if needed.
And as a reminder, all of the programs, the 2 that you approved last council meeting and the 3 that you'll hear tonight, will all go through that auditing process.
So our approval is still got to be approved by the auditor. Very good. Okay. Anything else? City Attorney? Okay.
No, sir. I just wanted to advise council that any of these monies have to be utilized in compliance with those regulations.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Member Jordan.
He's like a policeman, you know. He want to make sure we do everything correct. Okay, Mr. Mayor, Council, I move that we
Hold
approve.
on a second. I need to call cards.
Oh?
Yeah, please. Call cards, please.
Nancy Hoffman.
Come on, Nancy.
You waited long enough. I'm glad I got her the card.
Yeah, you thought I was going to pass, too.
No. Good evening. Thank you. My name is Nancy Hoffman. I don't live in the city limits, but I am in the process of opening Hoffman's Table in downtown Titusville. My compliments to the city. We have been working this project for a little over a year and a half, and we were on hold because of COVID. Wasn't exactly the right time to open a restaurant during a world pandemic. Still a little bit nervous about that, but we have been working closely with the city on the grease interceptor situation. The city has worked really well with us. Richard Elliott and Ashley have been to the site a couple of times. They saw what we were planning on doing, worked with Alligator Plumbing. The grease interceptor is installed. I didn't want to hold, knowing that maybe this funding was available, but we want to get our business open. So I do respectfully request that while you're thinking about this and the utilization of these funds, if you could retroactive approval, addressing that. I understand it has to be audited, understand how government works, but I do respectfully request that we be allowed to submit for these funds. I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager. Sean, anybody got a comment on her retroactive?
No, I'd just say that we'll certainly consider it, and that'll be one of the parts that we make sure that when it goes to the auditor, that that we can do the retroactive and whether or not that's appropriate for the ARPA funding.
I think that's as good an answer as we got. Any other cards? Unless they're a police officer. Oh, you haven't spoken yet. It's coming. All right, Member Jordan.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the American Rescue Plan Act water resource projects and programs.
Second.
And as part of that, I will need a budget amendment with that.
Member Jordan.
And the associated
budget
amendments for each
amendment.
of the items.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Second still stands.
All right, Member Jordan with a motion, Member Stokel with a second. Roll call vote.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Motion passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to 12E, which is the American Rescue Plan Act stormwater projects. Public Works has proposed to allocate these two funds to two water quality projects to install second-generation baffle boxes with media in the following locations. St. John's Baffle Box Basin Box number 2 in the cul-de-sac of West Street, just west of De Leon, in the amount of $190,000 with nitrogen reduction of approximately 1,992 pounds annually. The second baffle box is Main Street Baffle Box number 2 along Main Street near Blanton Park in the amount of $400,000 with the nutrient reduction of 1,170 pounds annually. It's recommended the City Council approve and allocate $590,000 in American Rescue Act funds to stormwater water quality projects and approve the associated budget amendment to create these projects. And Kevin's here to answer questions that you may have.
Member Robinson.
Oh, I'm sorry, my life.
No problem. Any comments? Kevin, you have anything to say? Just questions? Do we have any cards? I'm looking for a motion. Member Jordan?
Can I?
Thank you. May.
All right, Mr. Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the American Rescue Plan Act stormwater projects.
Second.
And I have a motion from Member Jordan, a second from Vice Mayor. Roll call vote.
Just to confirm, that includes the budget amendment.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Roll
Yes,
call
of course.
is-
Right. No, this is the second one, so including the
Member
budget
Rob-
amendment. Yeah.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Yes. Member Stokel?
Yes.
Thanks, buddy.
Motion passes unanimously. City Manager.
12F is the American Rescue Act plan for the City of Titusville's premium pay. Staff is in the process of finalizing the roster of eligible employees that met the criteria further specified in the ARPA language. Workers deemed to be performing essential work to maintain continuity of operations and protecting the health and well-being of the community. Such workers include first responders, public safety personnel, sanitation, social services, and other employees with direct interaction with the public during providing services during the health emergency. Staff is recommending, or furthermore, personnel must have a base salary of less than $75,000 per year in order to be eligible for premium pay. Premium pay is designated as a lump sum, non-recurring payment of $1,000 to fulfill or to full-time and $500 to part-time personnel meeting both ARPA criteria and a minimum service time as an employee of 6 months during the period of the declared local states of emergency. Staff is recommending council approve the allocation and use of American Rescue Plan Act funds in the amount of $350,000 to provide premium pay for City of Titusville employees who met the eligibility requirements outlined in ARPA and approve the associated budget amendment for this item.
Thank you very much. Council Member Stokel?
Yep. I just wanted to say that I'm very glad we're doing this. One of my questions during my briefing was why we can't do it for everyone. There's criteria that we have to go by, so I just commend them on sticking to that criteria and giving this to everyone that we could during this time. I'm very happy we're doing this.
I would agree. And certainly I've talked with the city manager about this early and often. I appreciate city manager being out and ahead of the curve. I believe city manager mentioned this to me even before we knew what we were going to get. It's important to us, it's important to city manager to do all we can to recognize our employees. And like you said, the only concern, or it's not even a concern, the only disappointing part is not everybody is going to qualify. There are rules to where the money can go and how it can go. But I can assure you that my discussions with city manager, he would like to do all he can for all he can. And I appreciate it as well. I think it's an excellent program, and I appreciate this coming from the top. With that, we have nothing else from staff. Council, any more questions? Member Jordan?
I want to make the motion.
We need to go cards. I know there's nobody, but got to call it anyway. Are there any cards? No cards? I may take a motion now.
Okay. Mr. Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the American Rescue Plan Act, City of Titusville, premium pay with associated budget modification.
I have a motion from Member Jordan.
Second.
I have a second from Member Stokel. Roll call vote.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Yes. Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. We are to petitions and requests.
Yes, sir. Next item is 13 petitions and requests from the public with non-agenda items.
Petitions and requests, Part 2. He's our Part 2 guy. Here's our closing act. Absolutely. Thank you for asking. We don't always get that.
Actually, I saved it for Part 2 specifically because we're talking about ARPA. All right, so tonight I want to discuss the $460,000 the city dedicated to homelessness at the last meeting. Immediately following that discussion, we had a developer arrive and suggest we give him the money to mix with state money to build low-income housing. With a really good person leading that development team and a really good person leading the company, it's not a horrible idea, but I think I may have an idea we might like better. All right, during the last city council meeting, Councilman Robinson made a very distinguishing point. He said whenever we, the people in this room that are leaders in the city, have the want and the ability to help people in need, we should do so with great urgency. For these people that are homeless, the need is today, tomorrow, and yesterday, not a year or two from now when construction or reconstruction of a complex is completed. With that in mind, I presented each of you with a plan of action that may help our Titusville population. Step 1, we hire a homeless liaison, a homeless person liaison working for the city, someone dedicated to helping the homeless and the homeless veterans within our city. Pay them up to $50,000 a year for a 1-year position, and their only job is absolutely dedicated to helping homelessness. Their job is to pair homeless people up with vacant homes in the city that are on-market rental houses. You know, if we allocate $5,500 to $7,000 just in payroll taxes, that leaves over $400,000 dedicated directly to helping people get addresses. This liaison reaches out, finds rentals in the city, and cuts a check for 1 year's worth of rent to the owner or management company, and helps these people just to get moved in. No qualifications, no programs, just help. Titusville has a 32.4% rate of homes in the city that are rental units. Just a quick search today brought up 61 addresses, ranging anywhere from $705 a month to $1,600 a month, available right this second. That equates to 32 to 40 individual people or families that we can help to get off the streets. Then that person, that liaison, can follow up monthly, see if it's an effective way of effective use of our money. Keep track, see how it affects their lives. Do they get a place to live, get clean, get a shower, get a job, and move forward? Or do they revert if it's not a good expenditure of our money? We can keep track of it and affect how it affects their lives, and if something we can replicate in the future as a city to help all homeless people moving forward. Our homeless population is homeless today, and will be tomorrow, and possibly as long as it takes to build a complex. Some of these people are our veterans, some of these people are our brothers and our sisters. This program could roll out next week and start getting people off the streets as soon as August. Why would we wait? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, just hit your little button and you're in. Member Robinson.
Yes, it's a wonderful plan, but I'm here to inform you it has been done. Under President Obama, it was called Housing First. And in the cities that it was incorporated in, it was a major disaster. You have to, what your plan is wonderful, but it's a lot more to the homeless population than the average person knows. And just the one thing that you are missing from that is what they call very gently and very scarily is case management. You can't change a person that doesn't want to be changed. And I have been working with the homeless and the poor for over 50 years. And you just can't do it. It's the things that we're going to do. I am very much an advocate for the homeless and the economically disadvantaged. But you can't do it this way because it would just be putting money down a proverbial toilet. Okay, but anytime that you want to sit and talk with me about the homeless population, I am available. It's a lot of things in our city that is being done. It has been done by people who really care, just like yourself. But just to do something to put them in housing, someone thought that. But they become houses of ill repute, if you understand what that means. They become drug lords and drug houses because you can't take that out of them just because you put a roof over their head. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Robinson. And he's got a whole lot of experience in that area. And my background is more in education. So the first thing that I get a red flag on is you're going to, go find all the homeless people and put them in houses. That sounds great. I get that. But we don't know their background. We don't know their history. Would they pass a background check? And where are you putting them and how many kids are around them in this homeless situation? Now that being said, I'm going to back up and say your thought, your heart, your passion is in the right place, and perhaps so with Mr. Member Robinson, and figure out exactly what can happen. Because the other thing that I think would happen is when you find the homeless and you put a roof over their head, from what I experience, sometimes even in hurricane shelters, they'll leave. They don't stay. If they don't want to have a roof over their head and they don't want to be somewhere and they can't confine to the rules, they're going to be gone. So we just got to be careful about that. But that aside, the thought you put into some of the things you bring up and the care and concern you give can't be replaced and I just am proud of you and thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see nobody else. Petitions and requests. So with that, we move to
Mayor and council reports.
council. Give me a button and I will call you.
I want
And Member Jordan wants to speak?
Yes, can I speak?
Absolutely.
All right. I think we got a major concern as your representative on the hospital board. Just to give you an update, as of 11:30 this morning, the census was 118 patients. We're holding 8 patients in the OR that are waiting for beds. We're holding 18 patients in the ED that are waiting for beds, and we have 37 COVID patients at a positivity rate of over 15%. Our census is showing that we have more patients with COVID than we did at the peak of the epidemic. We got a problem, and we got to do something about it. We've got a board meeting on next Monday, and the VPs are all concerned about us meeting together. Unfortunately, we don't have those rules in place that the governor had put in, saying that as governmental groups, we can meet virtually. So we don't have a choice. We're going to have to meet. We're going to social distance. But I will tell you, every VP and CEO at the hospital are extremely concerned about where we're going with this pandemic, because it's coming back strong, especially with the strain that is out there now, and people are dying. And so, and it all is because we have less than 50% of the people who are actually taking the shot. Even, and the mayor even mentioned today, even though you take the shot, you're still not immune to getting the virus. The difference is you won't die from it. You may get sick, but it won't be anything close to what you have had if you hadn't taken the shot. So I think more is going to be coming, and unfortunately, I think we may be reverting back to mask mandatory. I think the CDC was supposed to come out today with requirements. I'm already getting pushback from parents from the school system.
Right.
They're saying they don't want their child to wear the mask, and there are some who are saying, I'm not bringing my child back to school unless it's mandatory. So we're between a rock and a hard place. And my school, as a charter school, we tend to follow what the district says, and the district hasn't come out with anything. So I think there's more to come. We are having a COVID vaccination shot drive, if you will, that we're giving free shots to the teenagers who are eligible to do that before they go back to school. And I would admonish any parent who love their kid to please make sure that, take this political stuff and take your hat off your head, because politics will kill you. And what we need to do is love our kids and love our fellow man and get this shot, because the difference between taking the shot and not taking a shot, you think that there's a problem with the shot, where there's a huge problem with not taking the shot, and it means it could be life and death. So that's what I have, sir.
And I'm sure you guys will decide this down the road, but I guess the curious thing, and I've heard the question now, is are they going to put that big tent back up in the front? I'm not asking you to answer that, because I'm sure that'll come up.
Right.
And our elective surgery is going to be off the table before too long.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can tell you now, elective surgeries are more than likely going to go away, because it's just too dangerous.
That says it all right there.
It says it all, right.
It says it all.
Yeah. And the VPs have suggested that we go that route. So we'll be hearing more about that on Monday, but more than likely the elective surgery is going to go away.
Well, I will endorse, for all it matters, get your shot.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Get your shot. Vice Mayor Nelson.
Well, I was just going to say what Mr. Jordan just said. I have friends that are working at the hospital, and I was at the hospital last Thursday, and by Sunday, the numbers had pretty much doubled. And I know Sunday they were calling in doctors that were off duty to work in the ER because they had something like 45 people there that thought they had COVID. And so they were bringing in extra doctors. So it sounds really bad. I was down in Miami. Miami is requiring masks if you go into a hotel, you go into a condo, you have to have a mask on. You can't get an Uber unless you have a mask on. You can't get a taxi. So I think we need to realize that, this is serious, and we need to be careful.
Totally agree. Member Stokel.
Yeah, clarifying question. Member Jordan, did you say that there's more patients with COVID now than we've had the entire pandemic at Titusville?
No, I didn't say it. I'd say our census is higher for COVID patients than we ever had during the height of the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, city manager, are you guys still meeting and getting numbers for the county and the cities?
The numbers that we were compiling were from the health department, and they right now are giving, I think it's every other week. I'm sure they'll go back to daily counts here pretty soon based on what's happening.
Okay.
And if they do, we'll start our little summary again.
I mean, that's where I think we're going. I think I know I was, after you're vaccinated, you're thinking everything's going to go back to normal and you're excited. But then when you only have half the people doing it, I guess this is what we're presented with. So I don't know. I definitely think that we should kind of keep this on our radar, see what, if anything, we need to do, whether it's marketing or pushing out. I might start pushing out Facebook posts again. I don't think people are really aware. I know I have several friends that won't get the vaccine. Like, they just want to kind of wait, and that's their decision. But maybe we need to start encouraging then, like the masks and whatnot, just until we can get our numbers down again. It just makes me sad.
Anybody else?
All I have to put in is that I shared this with the city manager. Out of all of the things that I have attended, and including the opening up the Lockheed Martin place, which was grand in there, but I still enjoyed being at the picnic better. I really enjoyed being at the city picnic, and I applaud the city manager for doing that, and I had some very interesting conversations. Yeah, thank you.
It's definitely interesting.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate the council, and you just get to see what a great team we have that works for our city and how they care about our community, and pulling everybody together. And you saw people coming and going because we can't shut down operations. We were glad to do that. We normally try to do it in the spring, in April when it's not so hot, but
I will vote for that again.
We slid it to July because we were coming out of COVID and things seemed to be lifted. So,
city manager and I were pretty much, we were there till the end, giving out awards and lots and lots of awards. And I think part of that was we kind of had to skip last year, so we were doubling up. But that stage got hot, so I kept walking over my water and the towel. But anyway, before I turn it over to you, and I know we don't have staff here, but I'm going to throw this out there anyway, and hopefully I can move on this. I've kind of talked about this to you a little bit, but I get a lot of questions, and I have a lot of questions about what's going on with Popeyes. And it sounds very trivial after what we just talked about, but at the same time, it is. I get that question in church, and I drove by, and it looks like it's open. And it looks like there should be people inside. But when you put your face up there like a little kid, you can see the menus up there. It's like everything. It's like the Twilight Zone. Everybody's disappeared. So then I spent several hours calling Popeye's national headquarters. And it is very much like a science fiction movie, because the two people I talked to on two separate occasions don't recognize that there is a Popeye's in Titusville. So with that, it would be great if they kind of either told us what they're doing or why'd they build that thing.
Yes, sir. I'm not sure who you spoke with, but if you spoke to a corporate headquarters, they primarily deal with the corporate stores that are owned by Popeyes. This particular one is a franchisor, and he is associated with Popeyes, but I don't know their structure or how they track their individual stores, but I know franchises are treated differently than corporate stores.
Wow, you would think if you called Popeyes corporate headquarters, they'd know where the stores are that say Popeyes on the front door. I'm just saying. If I was a Popeyes, if owning Popeyes, I would think that. But we'll leave it at that. Let's go to another topic. I would say Chick-fil-A, but we'll stay away from that.
Well, on the good news, there is a ground breaking and construction underway on a Chipotle. So
that was next. I was going to say, what's the time frame on Chipotle? So see, I'm on that. Y'all ain't laughing now, are you? Chipotle.
I'm hopeful that they build it and occupy it and open it.
Good answer. That's a. Are you running for office, sir?
They're hopeful to be early spring, is realistically on their timeline.
Last and not least, Member Jordan and I were at New Life today for the not the grand opening, I guess, the ribbon cutting. What I find a very important need in our community, an adult daycare. You just don't see those. And for New Life to step up and see the need and do such a difficult task, and they've got a wonderful facility, a wonderful room for them, and they can come out to the lobby, and the sincerity of Pastor Linkus and the whole team. I can tell you that having lived through some situations with my mom in her last years when we needed some adult daycare, you have Joe's Club, and I don't know of another one. And I had to find Joe's Club, and it was very difficult. And sometimes you couldn't get in because there was too many. So I just want to take my hat off and thank Pastor Linkus, his crew, his team, and the fact that they see a need in this city, and they meet it. And we have a tremendous need, and it's going to be a growing need for adult daycare. So thank you to them, and I appreciate it. So with that, and nobody else has a light on, down there, City Manager.
Yes, sir. I have no action items and have a couple information items for you. And as a reminder, the budget workshop is scheduled for the 11th of August, and we are planning to use the same format that we used for the tree workshop, where council will be on the dais with the clerk, and staff will be down here on the floor. I think that was efficient, and I think with your visual of staff at these tables, now that we've got them set up, I think that workshop will run efficiently. The slide pack right now is up to 87 slides, so anticipate it to be about the same as it was last year.
Very good. City Attorney?
Appreciate that.
You are. Never mind. You're the MVP with no. Anybody else? Nobody? Going once, going twice? Meeting adjourned.